Okay, thank you very much. We'll start now. I think we've got everybody that's going to be joining on the line now. So what I'd like to do is to say welcome to the webinar on simplifying user provisioning in JD Edwards Enterprise 1 9.x. What I'd like to do is to hand over to Jacques from Quistor to open up proceedings. Over to you, Jacques.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, welcome everyone to this Quistor Q software webinar regarding user provisioning and JD Edwards Enterprise 1. Yeah, can you proceed to the next slide, please, Steve? So the agenda, a little introduction, some background on Quistor, presented by me. Then Steve will do some background on Q software, giving an overview of Profile Manager, where the product sits within the entire product stack of Q software. Owen will give you a real live demo of Profile Manager. Steve will summarize then, and I will do the wrap up where we can do questions and answers and other stuff. So next slide, please, Steve. So Quistor has a number of value propositions. We are one of the leading European JD Edwards and BI consultancy partners. We do everything around JD Edwards, from managed service to global rollouts, upgrades, everything around. We have 150 customers operating locally and globally, and we have offices in 7 countries in Europe. So Netherlands, Belgium, UK, France, Czech Republic, Italy, and Spain. At this moment we employ around 160, 170 consultants specialized in either JD Edwards or BI. Our value propositions, Oracle JD Edwards, everything around JD Edwards, delivery of cloud solutions and engineered systems, so complete cloud offering around JD Edwards but also around BI. 24/7 managed service, from operating system level till really application management services and everything in between. BI, a business intelligence competence center, and we do a lot of things with enterprise mobility, so mobile solutions implementing based on either the Oracle product stack or DSI. And we do custom development and integration, where we do all kind of stuff and integration and add-on solutions on JD Edwards for customers. Next slide, please, Steve. Our quality recognized in 2012. We were part of the Magic Quadrant for Oracle Managed Service Providers, so that states our quality on our managed service. Civil Logistics nominated us as a Supplier of the Year in 2012-2013, and we are a UK OUG Partner of the Year Silver winner for I think 3 years in a row now. So next year we hope it to be the gold one. And last year we won an Oracle Excellence Award in the Netherlands for Specialized Partner of the Year on the industry technology. That's mainly because we are one of the few partners who really can deliver the full stack of Oracle solutions. So from the hardware like engineered systems to the really application solutions like JD Edwards and the BI solutions. Okay, next. So global rollout experience. We have quite a number of customers, which you will see in the next slide, but these red countries are the countries where we are rolling out or have experience of rolling out JD Edwards, implementing JD Edwards. So as you can see, quite a global spread, and I think yeah, as we speak I can see a few countries which probably also should be red in the meantime, but it really shows that we are a global operating company, and therefore we also partner with other with solutions around JD Edwards who also have a global spread, so we can use them in our service portfolio. Yep. Customers, as you see, a big spread of customers, varying from apparel customers like Gucci, Furla, to manufacturing customers like Van der Lande, but also food customers like Darling Ingredients, like Cargill, and for example also logistics customers like Siva. And these customers, there are a few where we also implemented Q software as part of our service offering. So yeah, you see a wide spread of customers, and from really small local to big global names. Yep. Our partners, We have, of course, Oracle is a main partner. We are Oracle Platinum partner, but we have really strategic partners on our add-ons. So there are 4 strategic partners in this area for the JDE add-ons, which are Reports Now for reporting, Essentio for archiving, Qsoftware for security, that's why we have this session together, and DSI for scanning, but also for mobile solutions based on JDE. In the BI scene, we work mostly with Oracle Business Intelligence, so the BI Cloud products, the NDECA products, the OBIE products, and BI Apps products, and also we do some work there with MicroStrategy. So these are a bit more our solutions which we will deliver. Okay. Next. So that was my bit. So Steve, I will hand over to you so you can give some background on Qsoftware.
Thank you very much, Jack. So what it is about Qsoftware? Well, we are, as Jack has said, a company that specializes in compliance and security and solutions for those particular parts of the market. We, as Quistor, we're a global company with support desks, as you can see, across the world, from Australia all the way through the Middle East and the UK over to North America, together with sales offices in each of those regions. Now, the solutions that we develop here in the UK, which is our UK Development Centre, are all integrated with Oracle and have gone through their OVI certification process. But we also do solutions for Oracle World, and we do solutions for Oracle E-Business Suite. And like Quistor, we have a range of customers that fit into all sorts of markets and all sorts of sizes of customers. Of particular, highlighting 3 from this slide set, they are customers of ours and customers of Quistor, where we have worked together to deliver the solution for those companies. As you can see, they're quite large companies. But you can see we've also got companies in the UK, the likes of BP, Crocs in the US, Canadian Natural, so you can see the true global scope of our customer base. So that's enough about that's enough about Qsoftware. Maybe let's have a look at why we're all on the webinar. If we look at the Qsoftware Solution Suite as it currently stands, we have various tiers. The top tier being the compliance tier, where we have the ability to do compliance reporting and the ability to do management of auditing, critical access to programs, and various other bits and pieces that are associated with compliance. We also then have a set of security tools that allow you to either rapidly go from one point to another or to truly manage enterprise-wide security with the likes of Security Manager Pro. The bottom tier, as you can see on that solution set, is what we call the admin tools. And the one in particular that we're going to concentrate on today, which is all about user provisioning and streamlining that user provisioning, is what we call a Profile Manager. So that's where what we're going to talk about today fits within the overall scope of the solution set that we deliver for Enterprise 1 9.x. So, Profile Manager. Why did we decide to do a solution called Profile Manager? Well, simply when it came down to looking at the process of provisioning, allocating roles to users, it seemed to be a hugely disjointed and manual process, and hugely time-consuming, both for the business and, as part of the process, then hugely time-consuming for IT to make sure that they were delivering back to the business what the business wanted. It seemed an ideal opportunity to create something that might help that situation, and more importantly, allow IT to empower the business with something that they hadn't already got. The key thing was that, and the reason why people hadn't done this before, was the fact that there is that fear that in delegation you might lose control. So in many ways, that's why that delegation hadn't happened, because of that fear of losing control. And also the fact that as you're going through this process, where do these compliance checks come in? And once you've done your compliance checks, how do you actually then audit the trail of changes? So the current processes were hugely challenging for both the business and IT. And obviously, for when we looked at it from where we stand as a software supplier of third-party tools, we could see that this was something that needed addressing in the JDE market. So what did we do? Well, we went away and produced the product called Profile Manager that actually allows you to go through the process of provisioning rules, of provisioning users and roles to users. But more importantly, we do it in a way where we could segregate out the responsibilities for doing each step of the process and then design an automated workflow around that segregation, which allowed you to do some delegation but without losing the control. And as part of it being an automated process, of course, we could build in and work off the basis of our experience with security and compliance and actually build in things like optional segregation of duties checks as part of the workflow. And as you can see here, the final things were to make it easier to use and therefore manage security from a grid type of thing, and also then be able to upload user profiles and roles and the rest of it from spreadsheets directly into the system. So that's what we thought. We saw the problems, we looked at what the problems could do, and then we designed the solution that hopefully addressed those problems. Now, what does that look like from a visual point of view? Well, would you actually look at this? You've got the ability to have the business owning that role request responsibility. And then within the IT department, you have the IT department owning the responsibility for doing the SOD checking and then for actually putting it into the system. So a role requester can't put it into the system, only the IT department, the assigner, can put it into the system. The approver, of course, can sit in the middle. He can either sit in the business and be an approver that approves the role to be used, or he can sit as an approver within IT and make sure that it's fine from an SOD point of view, from a compliance point of view, before the SOD check. But it does allow us to go through a process of segregating the business, the approval process, and that technical implementation at the end. And from a visual point of view of actually how that workflow works, let's just take 2 seconds to look at it. And then hopefully, if you can remember the diagram that you're about to see, it will help when actually Owen goes through his demonstration in a couple of seconds from now. So here we have the role owner who has the ability to request roles. We then have the approver and the assigner that effectively work with those roles. So the role owner or requester then makes his request. He requests the role and it goes into what we call a pending approval state, which then sends off an email as part of the workflow process to the approver. The approver then has the ability to decide whether he's going to approve it or not. If he doesn't approve it, obviously it goes straight back to the role owner and the requester for him to rethink the process. If he does approve it, it then goes to the assigner who does an SOD check. Now, if it then fails the SOD check when the assigner does that, you then get a reject message that goes back out through the workflow back to the role owner. The role owner then either has the ability to just not put the request back in, or to mitigate that request and put it back into the system. Obviously, it goes back into the system, it goes back to pending approval, it goes through the workflow to the approver. The approver then sends it over to the assigner, who then reruns the SOD check. And on this particular occasion, because it's got proper mitigation in place, and again, it's proper mitigation that is recorded, which means it can therefore be part of an audit trail, it then passes that request, and once that SOD check has been passed, it is then entered automatically into the JDE system itself by the assigner. So you can see here, we hope we've addressed the concerns of the IT department about delegating responsibility out for the business, but how we can actually streamline that whole provisioning process and yet empower the business to be in control of that relationship between the role and the user, but without the IT department losing control of that and ultimately having the final say on what actually happens with it. So enough from me. What I'm going to do now is then hand over to Owen, who will hopefully take you through a very successful demonstration of Profile Manager itself. So over to you, Owen.
Thanks, Steve. before we get started, I just want to show you how you can set up the workflow process and how you can make it fit your business processes. The first thing is you can see the different types of users associated with this product. We're going to be looking at owners, and owners are granted access to some roles or all roles. So if we look at this one, originally named owner, you can see that the owner user has access to 4 roles, whereas another user here called train actually has an option of star all, so they own or can request all roles to be assigned. Now the same sort of setup can also be done for the approvers. So an approver can be assigned to a particular owner. So if we look here now, you can see there is an option, although I've done star all in this particular case, but I could have just said, the approver called approver will only manage the owners called owners requests. And last but not least, the assigners. And here you just set up who the assigner will be. And again, all you're doing, an assigner is global and they can assign for any of the approvers on the system. Again, if we go and look at the setup, you can also see where we can notice we've got a support for external ticket numbers, which means if you've got an external system where you manage your approvals, you can actually assign. And what's happening is when you're going through the whole approval process within our product, you're actually updating tables which are generated as part of the installation, keeping track of who's been assigned what, who's requested what, and of course associated with these can be assigned these ticket numbers. If we look at the segregation of duties, you can see again it's optional. You can suggest that you can force that an SOD check has to be done when the assignment takes place. That's the moment when the F95921 is updated to say this user has this role. Otherwise, the SOD could be optional if I uncheck this, and of course the SOD check can be done at any stage. So that's what I just wanted to show you before we get involved in the actual demonstration itself. So I'm going to, first of all, what I'm going to do is go through the process. Now I'm signed on as owner, as you can see there, and I'm going to request a role. Now remember that the user owner only had 4 roles assigned. So what I'm going to do is for AP user 1, we'll just do a quick check. Now if we check the assigned, you can see that actually nothing at the moment that has nothing assigned at all. So there's no entry in the F95921 saying that AP user 1 has any roles. And if I click on the available roles, these are the 4 roles that were assigned to the owner, the user owner, which means they can manage and request these roles to be assigned. So what I'm going to do is just assign AP clerk. And notice it's very similar. For those of you who've used the JDE Edwards P95921, it's very similar. It's asking for the date range and whether it's included in star all. And sorry, I don't know what happened there. Let's try again. That's better. There was a strange role name. Okay, so you can specify the date range, but more importantly, and this is what's going on to our database, tracking changes, you can make a comment, so requested by AP management. Anyway, you can make certain requests as comments as required. So now we've made that request. What I'm going to do also Now, the next stage is you can see it's in selected status, but I haven't actually, the idea is now at this moment I could say, well, actually I want to assign another role, so I could choose to put in demo 1, etc. I can ask for that to be assigned as well, and then we end up with a list of roles that are selected for this particular user. But in this case, I'm just going to select one role, and now to commit that selection, because if I just exit now without saving this change, then the request will be rejected outright. But what I'm going to do is now change the status, and you'll see now in pending approval, you can see that AP Clerk is waiting. And you can see there's an email which has been sent. Now it's being sent to my standard Outlook account, but you can see the owner at qsoftware.com, the user owner, and notice this email has been sent to the user approver, who is the approver for the user owner. And it's saying, right, you now have a role request for assignment. It's AP Clerk, and here this is the comment. So that again, that's part of the optional workflow process where you can actually have the email sent to a person of interest. In this case, the person of interest is the approver. What I'm also going to do is choose for AP User 2, and if we look at AP User 2, we can see they've already got a role assigned in this particular case, but I'm going to assign an additional role. We're going to assign them AP Super. So what I'm going to do is just highlight AP Super, click on the green arrow, and again we go through the process, and it says where I can put in a comment, and the comment could be related to why the request has been made. Actually, I've already got it assigned. Sorry about that. I'll assign it to AP User 1 again. So we'll do AP Clerk to AP User 1. Okay, so now, at the moment, AP User 1 still has nothing assigned. We've got one pending approval and one selected. So again, I need to advance this, and I want AP Super also to be approved for AP User 1. And now we can see in pending approval, we've got those two roles ready to go. So the next step is, now I can go no further because I'm only the owner, although when you're setting up the users, you can actually specify additional, there's the email reminding the approver that a request has been made. So I can go no further, and I'll just show you that, and this is again all part of the workflow. So if I finish now and go to the Work with Roles application, you'll see it's actually telling me I'm not defined as a supervisor, approver, or role assigner. So because I'm signed on as the owner, and the owner only has owner status within this product, I can't go any further. I can use some of the other applications, but I can't work with roles. So what I'm going to do now is sign out. Sign on now, and this time I'm going to sign on as approver. Now remember, approver has been getting these emails, as you can see here, and you can see this is now a role request from owner, and again, designating that we're ready to go. So now I'm signing on as the approver. Going back into the application, going into the profile manager again, and this time I'm not going to deal with the request with roles, but I'm going to do the work with roles. Now remember, I'm assigned on as approver now, so I want to work with AP user 1. AP user 1 has these 2 roles pending approval. So the next step is I can now click on the select action. And the select action allows me to do an SOD check only, or I could move it to approved without doing an SOD check, because it might be that in my organization I'm not really responsible for the SOD check, or I can do an SOD check and if passed, set roles. So I can leave it just to the assigner to do the SOD check at this stage, but I've decided I'm going to do the SOD check before we go any further. So having selected what I'm going to do, I can click Perform Action, and notice you get the user has failed the SOD check. And this is what will happen if I do an SOD check at any stage and there's a failure. And because there's been a failure, we've now got a new folder which is the failed rules. And I can drill down. Now, for those of you who are familiar with our SOD engine, who've used it in other products, you will know what we're going to see next. It's going to show me what is the cause of what is the violations, or what is the cause of the violation. And there you can see, we can drill down, and you can see here now, first of all, you can see I've got role chooser active, which means I can choose the roles and sign on, but also it's telling me what level of access I'm getting, what the rule is looking for, and you can see it's a combination of those 2 roles, AP Super and AP Clerk. And you can see from AP Super I'm getting the P0030A, from AP Clerk I'm getting the P0411, and also from AP Clerk I'm getting the P0413M. And this is the level of access we've been looking for, and this is what's causing the violation. Now, as Steve said earlier on in his presentation, there's various stages where we can mitigate. I could just say, okay, I'm not going to deal with the mitigation now. I'm going to put it to approved and leave it to the assigner to deal with, or I'm actually going to put the SOD, I'm going to put in a mitigation at this point now. It really depends on what stage within your organization you decide you want to the mitigation to take place. Now, when you're setting up the mitigation, you could set up a link. You can set a date range. You could set up a link to a documentation server, or you can type in some free-form text with any compensating controls. And I can save that. Now, having put the mitigation in place, what I can do is go through the whole process again. You see it's already set up to do an SOD check and if passed. Now don't forget, I could select the action earlier on and just put it into approved status anyway. But in my situation, we're saying that actually that the approver is the one responsible for doing any SOD checking and putting in place any mitigation. So now, if I perform the action, it will do an SOD check. And this time you can see that the user has passed the SOD check and the role has been approved. And there's an email here from the approver to the owner to say, by the way, it's been approved. So the whole, all time, everyone's being communicated to be told what the status is, what's going on, how far into the workflow process we are at the moment. Now, having gone through the approval process, my approver user is not set up as an assigner, so I can't go any further now. So now I have to sign out and sign back on again as a user called assigner. And now I can actually go through the assignment process. And remember, the assignment process is the moment when the F95921. So we've been through the whole workflow process, and the F95921 is now going to be updated to say that AP user 1 has got the AP clerk and AP super role assigned, and of course the mitigation has come into effect and it will allow me to go through the next stage. Now, if I hadn't put the mitigation in place, because I've said that an SOD check is mandatory, I would have to pass that SOD check to actually go through the final assignment. What I'm going to, sorry, I forgot to say which user I want to work with. So now we can see in approved status there are the two roles, and now as the assigner I now have the capability to say, okay, I could just do an SOD check just to do a final sanity check, or I could say, okay, well it's mandatory to do the SOD check, so we still will go through the check and then we'll go into the assigned status, or I could send it back to pending approval status. So I'm going to advance it at this stage and click Perform Action. Oops, now, notice earlier on I mentioned that we'd set it up so that a ticket is mandatory. This means that when I go through this assignment, I have to put in any appropriate ticket numbers if that's if you do have an external change management system. So I'm just putting in a ticket number. This is all going to be stored in the database, and it's now telling me the user SOD has passed. The reason the user has passed is because of the mitigation that's in place, and we get an email from the assigner to the owner saying your role request has been approved. So the next step, having done this, we can now check in the assigned, and you can now see that both of these, there's the other, by the way, there's the other email for the other role, because I did two roles in one operation. And now we can see, and if you went into the F95921, you would now see that those roles are assigned. Now, as we were going through this process, I was also putting in additional comments, and that's what you can see when you use these two inquiries. So the first inquiry allows me to look at the role statuses. It's telling me who's been assigned, who's been unassigned, what status they're in our internal workflow process, who's the user, and what users are involved. So you can see all the requests have been by the user owner, and then you can see who was last involved. If there's been a rejection, we could have rejected with a comment, but these are the comments that I was putting in place when I was requesting the role as the owner. And if we go now into the assigned role inquiry, this just focuses on roles that are currently assigned and allows you to actually see which roles are assigned and see which what comments that may have been made at that time. Now, there are some other functionality here. First of all, if you want to manage your SOD, this is all done. And for those of you familiar with our SOD engine from other products, these are standard reports where you can set up the rules. This is the rule that I set up, which we were testing. And you can see there's a specific model for the role allocation. I only had one rule in place, which is the one I did violate. But you can see if I drill down, this is the level of access. And you can set up your own rules, or we do ship rules with the product as well. Otherwise, you can manage your mitigation. If I go into work with mitigation, you can see any mitigation that's currently in place. And you can manage, you can do run your reports to see who's in violation, etc., etc. And also, other functionality which you may find useful, you can do batch import of roles or batch import of users. Now, I won't go through both of these because they work in the same principle, but basically we give you a grid where you can import all the information that may be required by a role. This can be import from a spreadsheet or using copy and paste or just use for data entry if you wish. And once the information has been set up, you can then run the batch report that will upload this information into the database. So that allows you to receive information in spreadsheet format and upload very quickly. Another one you may find useful is also adding the single user. As most of you are aware, you have to go to at least 2 applications within JDE Edwards to set up a single user, one of which is a very sensitive one, which is the P98OWSEC. So what we're allowing you to do is set up a user from a single form. If you want to go into advanced information, this is the standard information that's required. If you want to go into advanced, then you can set it up here just through these. You can go into the advanced and set up things like the allow password attempts, etc., etc. So thanks very much, Steve. Unless there's any questions, I will hand back to you.
Thank you very much, Owen. As I take back the helm. So thank you very much, Owen. That was very useful. If anybody does have any questions, obviously, there, if you look at your GoToWebinar screen on the right-hand side, there is both a questions box and a chat box. So hopefully we'll be able to unmute everybody so they can actually ask questions at the end. However, if you do have any questions in the meantime, just please pump them into these chat or questions box and I'll pick them up and we'll get Owen to answer them. Okay, so let's just do a quick summary of what we've seen. And what I'll start with is the fact that what we've done is we've taken the Profile Manager application that you've just seen in JDE Edwards and extended it out to a mobile platform. Now, you don't have to log in to JDE Edwards to use this, but what it does is it gives you the ability, as you can see here, from either using an iPad or an iPhone or any Android device or tablet, to actually see those roles where there has been a request. And like the applications you've just seen Owen demonstrate, depending on what responsibilities you've been allocated, it depends on what you can do via the mobile device. So if you are an approver, what will happen is that you will get requests come up that either need your approval or need rejecting. And as you can see here, you can see that there's a little thumbs up and a little thumbs down. Obviously, you can either approve it or reject it. And then that will feed directly into the system and the workflow will kick off within JDE Edwards. You can also have this mobile app recognize the fact that you're a role owner. So that business function that I talked about earlier on, and that business function will then allow you from a mobile platform to then actually request the allocation of roles to users, the roles that obviously that you own. So in many ways you can do approve, you can do request on the move. All of this has an audit trail. As I said, it's multi-platform. We deliver it, everything that you need in a single package, so it includes the web server and everything that you need to be linked to that. So everything you've just seen, we can extend to a mobile platform. Pricing for this is very simple. Just 2 bands really. Anything up to 250 users, £5,000. Over 250 users, £10,000. If you're interested, please talk to Jacques following this webinar, and I'm sure he'll take you through things and give you an official quote. If you want any more information, then we have data sheets that are on Profile Manager. If you want something to refer to, please, again, contact us afterwards, and what we will do is we'll send this information out to you, along with a copy of the slide set. So just to summarize where we've come and where we've gone, the benefits of this streamlining of user provisioning. First of all, it automates that whole manual, that horrible manual process that we talked about earlier on. It automates that whole thing. And because it's automated and because it's within JDE Edwards, it's fully auditable. So now you have a way of being able to demonstrate to your auditors and your compliance teams exactly when a request was raised and when it was provisioned and how it was provisioned and how it was mitigated if that's the case. And it's all within the system. You can do your SOD checking, and it's an automatic SOD checking. So this will highlight where you've got potential conflicts before they happen. But most importantly, and for the IT department this is most important, you can now delegate some of that responsibility, some of that workload that you have normally got hanging on the back of a manual process, and you can delegate that work out to the business, but you don't lose control. And as Owen has quite ably shown, it is most definitely segregated between that role owner, that approver, and that assigner by the fact that he had to log in at each point. Again, even with the mobile application, you have to be owning a certain responsibility in order to perform a particular function. So you can see it's properly segregated, which means that ultimately you can't lose control over any of those particular processes, and ultimately it's IT that sits right at the end of it and has the final determination as to what actually appears in JDE Edwards. So it's one application that actually performs 3 different functions, but depending on who you are as to what you can do with the application when you log in. So that's it in a nutshell. It really, really brings together all of that old headaches that we had with provisioning and streamlines that whole process, automates it, and makes it auditable. So on that, I'm going to hand back to Jack for a Quistor wrap. Over to you, Jack.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, I think what we see was a good overview of our profile manager and where it is a great add-on in provisioning users and the whole user management in addition to the Qusoftware, other Qusoftware products. Also really like the extensions to the mobile platform, which will give people who are traveling a lot the possibility to approve or reject changes. And what we see for also is the mandatory field Owen raised, where you can align with service ticketing. What we see with several customers when they are audited for certain reasons, that they want to really find the whole case. So if you have a link between your ERP system and what's happening there and an incident tracking system based on a common reference number, this will be a great add-on if you're suffering like all kind of questions when you are audited. So from this point, I would like to thank you for this. If you want to have the brochure, there are several ways to get that. You can drop me an email. You can also contact us by phone. Another way is also to download the Quistor mobile app in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. And there is a component brochures where you can find all the relevant brochures from Qusoftware and our other partners, but also for Qusoftware, besides the ones for Profile Manager, you can also find the one on Reporting, Audit Manager, and Security Manager Express and Pro. So if you want to have quick access to the brochure, download our app and look there in the brochure section. For now, I would want to thank you for your attendance. Of course, follow us on Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, or whatever. We make sure that we announce future webinars there. Before I close down, are there any questions? I don't see any questions in the chat at the moment, but if there is anyone, raise a question now, or otherwise I want to close down the webinar. So, any questions?
Jack, this is Owen. Steve pointed out to me that my emails weren't popping up when I thought when they were popping up on my screen, but you weren't seeing them. Do you want to just let me share for a minute, just so I could show the emails that appeared?
Yeah, great for me.
Yeah, if you just make me presenter, I can just show them. I apologise, they didn't pop up when they were supposed to.
Okay, I've made you presenter, Owen.
I am presenter. Here we are. We're looking on the web. This might be part of the problem. I'm using my web Outlook app here. You can see, starting off at the bottom, you can see this is the owner's email going to the approver, and you can see the detail. Is that visible now?
Yeah, it's visible now. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so you can see the role being requested, the comments I made, and there's the other one if we look at this one, you can see again the information requested by and who it's being sent to, so they're aware. And if then we go to the approval, and there you can see is the approver sending an email to the owner saying it's been approved, it's moved on to the next stage. And then the assigner's emails as the going to the owner, the assigner saying the following roles have been assigned, etc., etc. So I do apologise that that's just to show you that the actual workflow process is being driven by emails and keeping people informed by emails. I apologise you didn't see them as it was going on.
Okay, Owen, thank you for this additional clarification. I don't see questions popping up on the test. I also don't see or on the chat. So I think, yeah, what I want to do now is thank you all for your attendance. Future webinars, we definitely will invite you to the various social channels, and if there are any requests, definitely contact me by email or by phone or any other way. So look forward to talk to you in the future, and thank you for your attendance now.